Yes. So we stop for questions, visions. Yeah. Questions, visions, suggestions, explanations. Nirmal, you have to ask something. You are not preparing a presentation, are you? Questions or suggestions or any questions you have? Beg your pardon? Yes. In the Greek, chronos means regular time. Kairos means Kairos, is that God kind of time. So, I'm sorry I'm unable to remember places where Kairos time, you know. A good suggestion, time goes on, but when he dips in and intervenes, it becomes a God time, you know. So, fair number of scriptures, Kairos. Let me see, Jahan, do you remember any Kairos? Let me find some scriptures on it. Lalith Mendis. Yeah. I speak to myself when I'm in trouble. Don't do it often, people may. When I want to recall something, I speak to myself. Dictionary topics, Kairos. Yes, you understood the principle, isn't it? The specific times in which God has worked. This is the easiest ways to check on the concordance time. Jesus said, you know the times when the weather changes and you don't know this time. Had you know the time of your visitation? So let's see. Matthew 2:7, diligently what time the star appeared. That is chronos. Chronos. What is that there?
That's Kairos time, is it?
That is Kairos, is it? Mark 1:15. Let me see. Mark 1:15 you said?
Yeah.
Mark 1:15. Brilliant. That's Kairos. Mark 1:15. What does Mark 1:15 say? Saying, the time is fulfilled and the kingdom of God is at hand. Mark 1:15. So it's a the time. It's a kind of thing, God's appointed time. And in the Old Testament also you get this, here. Time Time appointed. Moed. 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 Moade. Appointed place, appointed time, appointed signal. Appointed time, the Hebrew is moed. Okay. Any other questions? Any suggestions? Any spiritual impression you have had this 25 days of this year? Today's 25th, isn't it? Of 2025, we had done 25 days. Yeah. And the numericals of this year is a little strange. 1 to the cube plus 2 to the cube plus 3 to the cube plus 4 to the cube plus 5 to the cube up to plus 9 to the cube adds up to 2025. You 1 to the power 3 plus 2 to the power 3 plus 3 to the power 3 plus 4 to the power 3 adds up to 2025. Isaiah 2 also has the day of the Lord. So obviously it's the period, isn't it? Day of the Lord. And this last week of Daniel, 69 weeks of Daniel 9:26 is done. Last week of Daniel, those are weeks of years. So every 1 week means 7 years. So those 7 years are waiting to happen. We are 69. How many of you are familiar with Daniel 9:26? The 69 weeks were appointed in Daniel's prophecy, and the tick-tock began 445 BC with the decree to rebuild Jerusalem by Ahasuerus. You remember that? That's how Ezra and Nehemiah came to rebuild. So people have counted from that day one 183,680 days to the crucifixion of Christ. Daniel's 69 weeks were done and finished. 1 week, Daniel spoke of 70 weeks. So, what is that week waiting for? Let's ask Daniel. Daniel 9:26. Then after the 62 weeks, the Messiah will be cut off and have nothing, and the people of the prince who is to come will destroy the city and the sanctuary, and its end will come with a flood. Even to the end there will be war, desolations are determined. So, people of the prince to come, people who destroy Jerusalem was Romans. So, another fellow is going to arise from that same territory who will become Antichrist. 9:27, he will make a firm covenant with many for 1 week. That week is waiting to happen. So, will that chap be Elon Musk or Putin or Erdogan? What do you say, Krishan? Right through history there will be Alexander. So there will be a final beast. Revelation 13 has been true in many episodes. People thought Nero is the beast, no? And Nero behaved like the beast, killing Christians and whatnot. Then when Hitler was arising, people thought that will be the last fellow. So, yeah. But he's a Jew. He was a Jew. Because Daniel 11 says, he will not regard the God of his fathers, and that he will have no regard for women. So some interpret that to mean it's a Jew who will have no regard for women also. Character. Yeah. And recently Putin signed a treaty with Erdogan because to supply gas to Turkey. Soon after, Syria fell and Putin lost his foothold in Syria. Why are we interested in Putin and Erdogan? Because in Ezekiel 39, in the Gog-Magog invasion, Turkey is particularly mentioned. How is Turkey mentioned? By its progenitor, the great-grandson of Noah. All the present nations have descended from grandsons and great-grandsons of Noah, obviously. They are the only ones who survived. So, many ancient places will have names. Mizraim, Egypt. In Sinhala, Egypt is called Misrael. So, very obvious one. Meshek, Moscow. Tubal, Tobolsky. So very, you can easily trace. Herodotus also has these lists of who founded nations. So their names are still there in certain countries. Ashkenaz, Germany, like that, different. Sheba Dedan. Very young fellow. America is a very young nation, so meaning it's British who populated that and French, isn't it? Britain is known because Britain was a country that exported tin in the time of Ezekiel. So you can know ancient countries, what are they now, from their exports. Did you understand that? Sorry, Jan. Yeah, 2 Thessalonians 2. Yeah, falling away of the church, which Christ also described in Matthew 24. He said, but all these things are merely the beginning of birth pangs, all these ecological changes, sea roaring and whatnot, beginning of birth pangs. It will take some time. For a mother, once the birth pangs start, it's only a matter of few hours. But when the earth and the sociological system shows birth pangs, it's a beginning, and this will increase in frequency and ferocity. Earthquakes, volcanoes, plagues, whatnot, will keep increasing in frequency and force till the day dawns. Day comes, Matthew 24, these are the beginnings of birth pangs. They will deliver you to tribulation, will kill you. You will be hated by all nations because of my name. At that time, many will fall away. The same apostasia. Many will fall away. That refers to Christians. and will betray one another, hate one another. Many false prophets will arise and will mislead many. So the Lord is giving some signs that will come up in the church to show the falling away. Many false prophets. 12, because lawlessness is increased, most people's love will grow cold. So that's also a sign. These referring to Christians. Love will grow cold. But the one who endures to the end will be saved. So what do you realize? Many get offended and betray. Many get deceived by false prophets. Many grow lukewarm. Revelation, the church is also that, isn't it? The Laodicean church, lukewarmness. And when it comes to who will be remaining, it's in the singular. The one who endures to the end, he will be saved. So it's, we don't want to think even, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. I don't know about that. Are there false prophets? Yeah, but that is true. Christ is referring to a time that large numbers will go wrong, get deceived, and get offended. Yeah. So there's going to be an end time thing, isn't it? When we were very young Christians in 1973 or 4, Hal Lindsey wrote a book called Late Great Planet Earth. Late Great Planet Earth. Not read it. He made these scriptures very popular because the book was written in a very interesting, engaging style. Late Great Planet Earth. So he said Israel has come back to their land. Therefore the fig tree has started budding, and the generation that saw Israel coming back to the land will also see all these things happening, quoting from Matthew 24. Matthew 24, (32) Now learn the parable from the fig tree. When its branches has already become tender and puts forth its leaves, you know the summer is near. So he said fig tree is Israel, and once Israel becomes a nation and in their own territory, time is right for the end to happen. Luke 21 makes it more sharp. The last discourse of Jesus on Mount Olive is found in Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21. Johan, what did I say? Johan, what did I say? Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21. Please say it 3 times a day before every meal. Huh? Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21. So Luke 21 has a little more specific detail. 21, 24, Jesus is speaking to the Jews of his time. They will fall by the edge of the sword and will be led captive into all nations, and Jerusalem will be trampled underfoot by the Gentiles. When did this happen? 70 AD, when Titus the Roman, later he became the emperor, Roman armies surrounded Jerusalem and they will not budge. They are stubborn fellows, you know. So they did not budge. So out of anger, they set fire to Jerusalem. Then the gold in the temple melted and they dismantled the temple rock by rock, stone by stone, as Jesus said, till there was nothing standing one upon the other. You remember Jesus said that. It literally happened because the Romans wanted to get the gold from the crevices. And they were taken as slaves to all nations, sold as a punishment. With these incorrigible fellows, if they are left in their nation, they'll rebel again. That was the perspective of the Roman Empire. That's why they had such a brutal fellow like Pilate. They always put very senior people to govern Judah, because they were the most difficult to govern, though very small. Because they had the inheritance, they had the promise, so they were very, very, very obstinate, thinking they are obeying God. So they resisted Christ also like that. So trampled underfoot by Gentiles, Jerusalem, until the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled. So when did Gentiles stop trampling Jerusalem? To put it in another way, when did Israel get Jerusalem back? Yeah. When did Israel get Jerusalem back? Israel got the state back in 1948. When did Israel get Jerusalem back? 1967, after the Six-Day War. So, this times of the Gentile for Jerusalem was over in 1967. Then what happens? Verse 29, beg your pardon, verse 27, verse 28, 25, sorry. Then what will happen? There will be signs in sun and moon and stars, and on the earth dismay among nations, in perplexity. Why is the perplexity? At the roaring of the sea and the waves, men fainting from fear and the expectation of the things which are coming upon the world. So after 1967, what is the main global news? That oceans are in trouble, isn't it? Oceans are roaring. Good news or bad news? Whether it is good or bad, it is true news. So Jesus said, after Jerusalem returns to Israel. He didn't use those words. What he said is, times of the Gentiles over, Jerusalem will be over. And then we'll start another sign in the ecology that oceans will start saying time is up. What is your ocean saying? Are you listening to the oceans? No? Oceans, are they saying time is up, I have had enough of these humans? What has happened in the oceans is, I have said this so many times really, corals are down to 40%. And corals are needed to keep the pH balance of the world. Corals take up the carbon dioxide that is dissolving, the bicarbonates, and the vegetation converts CO2 to oxygen. Corals keep the pH balance. So when corals are down to, at present corals are down to 40%, I read this about 10 years ago. In the body, when kidneys are down to 33%, we call it chronic renal failure. A human being can manage one kidney completely gone, and of the other kidney, if you have 2/3, you can still manage. So world's corals are down to 40%. What if it goes down to 33%? Because corals are the world's kidney that keeps the pH value, ocean pH value, keeps the rivers and drinking water and all yeah. Then they have done so much of catching of large-scale fish. Shoals of small fish all over the ocean beds are eating up all the Earth's ocean vegetation. And ocean surface is more than 4 times the Earth's surface, because ocean has mountains taller than Everest. They are all covered with green, and they are all doing photosynthesis. And when ocean's vegetation keep going down because of ocean dumping by Cynthia's industry, are you still there? Oh, yeah. And by large scale cruise ships, they take crude oil and do their petroleum refining in the ocean and dump all the bitumen, the other oils and whatnot, what Sapakaskanda used to do, into the ocean. And how many cruise ships and tankers are going around the world, you think? Enormous, isn't it? That's how the corals have died, by the ocean dumping. It's like oil refineries moving through the ocean. Their fuel is being refined by themselves and dumping goes on the ocean. So compared to that, dumping, government industry dumping is chicken, but still it's happening. Every summer clothes they dump and winter clothes. For each season, enormous dumping. Yeah.
It says, let no one deceive you by any means, for that day will not come unless the falling away comes first. So I think that is a more definitive mark to see when the Christ will come, because that day will not come unless the falling away comes first. So I think that did not happen.
I think it has happened. Christians are getting deceived in different ways. Also, Christ gave a list of many signs. No?
Yeah.
So we have to take 1 Thessalonians in the context of Christ's Olivet Discourse. He mentioned all this. The youth rebellion, he mentioned all this. No? Yeah. Yeah. So the world systems are moving to digitization, AI. AI can now produce the hologram that will speak like a man. Revelation 13 says, no, the image of the beast will speak. So they can make whatever they want to, and that will answer questions. And it really looks like a human speaking. So we have arrived there for all this to happen. Yeah. Yeah, they applied this to Romans desecrating the temple in 70 AD. That was the immediate application. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation which was spoken through Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, those who are in Judea must flee to the mountains. So the Christians believed this and left Jerusalem en masse before Romans did what they did. So Christians didn't die because they believed this warning of Christ and they left Jerusalem, even those who were remaining in Jerusalem. Others died in large scale and others were sent off as slaves. Then He gives different things. Go to those who are pregnant. Pray that the flight will not be in the winter or Sabbath, because at that time Sabbath was applicable. Then there will be a great tribulation which has not occurred since the beginning of the world until now, nor ever will. So that is not 70 AD. That is a later thing. Unless those days had been cut short, no life would have been saved, but for the sake of the elect, those days will be cut short. That is, this is referring to us. Because we are still on earth, this terrible tribulation that is coming will be cut short. But this couldn't have been the first century thing. So, false Christ, yeah. That's what those who believe that think the temple will have to be rebuilt for this to be redone. There are various stories that they are getting ready to for some time. Netanyahu might. Netanyahu being Netanyahu. Other thing is this, that with the agreement of Antichrist, first 3.5 years, Antichrist will make peace with Jews, and Jews will sign the treaty with Antichrist. Isaiah 28 warns them that they will sign a treaty. A covenant of death. And in the middle of the week, Daniel 9, in the middle of the week, Antichrist will break the covenant. Daniel I have not got on to my Bible study today. People have been asking eschatological questions. Yeah. Daniel 9:26, after 62 weeks, and he will make a firm covenant with the many for 1 week. So that is with Israel. Daniel 9:27. Israel is going to sign a treaty for their peace with someone. But in the middle of the week, he will put a stop to sacrifice and grain offering, and on the wing of abomination will come one who makes desolate. A complete destruction, one that is decreed, is poured out on the one who makes desolate. So, middle of the week meaning, week has how many years? The last week has how many years? Students, I am asking a question, that 1 week of Daniel is remaining of the 70, 69 done and finished. That 1 week has how many years? 7. So, when that final 7 years start, Antichrist will make a treaty with Israel. By that we will know Antichrist. And in the middle of the week, after 3.5 years, Antichrist will break the treaty and start. You should read Dr. David Jeremiah on this. He has a very good book that is contemporary, and he describes quite well. And he in his storytelling, he's talking about Britain and France becoming the Antichrist combination. And both of them look like that, Starmer and Macron.